All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Monday, March 4th, 2024. We are with Marketing Sprint 24.1. So this is cohort 24. We are in our second week of sprints. So I believe this is going to be week 2, session 2, or session 2. Just I'm still not sure how those numbers go, but cohort 24, this is going to be our sprint session 2. So in our workbooks, now, is there anyone still who does not know where to go to find the workbook, or who has not made their own personal copy and moved it to their drive? Is there anyone who still needs to do that or does not know how to do that? All right, I don't see any hands. I don't see any reactions. So I think that I'm taking that as everyone has been able to find that workbook and has been able to make their own copy, correct?
Yes.
This is the one that we looked at last week, right?
Yes, it will be the same workbook. It'll carry us for a little bit of a ways. And we actually are going to jump in and get started. Let me get to where we left off last week, which was Social Media 101. And I am going to share my screen and we can go ahead and get started. All right. So we are in our workbook 1, Modern Author Fan Theory. We are starting tonight with Social Media 101. Social media is a tool that has just completely changed marketing. It's changed the way we market, and most importantly, it's changed the amount of information that we can get about our audience to make future marketing efforts more effective and more targeted and relevant to that audience. Prior to the advent of social media, we oftentimes had to pay research companies to gather this information for us. It was an expensive process. It did kind of get lengthy because the research agencies would typically, kind of try to give you as much information as possible. But there was still a lot of the landscape about our audiences that was tough to explore strictly through research. Social media gives us a component of behavior. So not only do we know the demographics of our audience, most importantly, we know what their challenge is, and we know what we need to do and say to solve it for them in a way that is highly relevant to them and makes them feel as if they are being validated and spoken to directly. And social media, the way we use it, let's say socially with our friends and our family, is far different than the way we use it as a marketing tool. There's much more strategy. There's much more front-end work to an effective social media marketing campaign than a lot of the times our more social activities on social media tends to have. So leveraging social media is massively important because it is a wonderful way to get your name out there and build your brand as an author, and perhaps build the energy and excitement for the work for your book. It can be overwhelming, though, to a lot of people because it's, where do I start? What do I do first? What thread do I pull at first to start perhaps unraveling this big ball of social data and behavior and engagement that social media allows. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks tonight to establish yourself on social media. First and foremost is plan out content. And this is a big difference from the way we socially use we socially use these platforms. When you are creating content that is kind of going to end in an ask for a customer to either buy a service, buy a product, subscribe to something, You want that to be planned out as best as possible. A lot of the times with social media, we tend to plan it at least a week out, if not a full month out. Now, it's not a hard and fast plan for social media. A lot of the times we build content calendars that we allow kind of to show main pieces of content that we're going to want to share. So let's say we have a webinar coming up, or your pre-sale is getting ready to launch. That's stuff that we would look at. We'd say it's going to happen on this date. So we now need to look at what leading up to this event, content-wise, what we need to give our audiences to make this pre-sale or to make the webinar as successful as possible. And that actually takes a great deal of planning, because we want the content we want to know with some level of certainty that this is what's going to happen. We're going to put this piece of content out, and in some capacity, it meets a need for our audience and pushes them towards becoming a super fan or an advocate in some capacity. We also want to do this because that tends to give us a more professional level of content when it actually does publish to our social media. That way, perhaps revisions have been done to the copy or the written portion of the post in order to make sure there's no misspellings or no, grammatical errors or issues that would cause an audience to disengage from the content. We want to make sure that we are pulling them in at all points. And a lot of the times, if there is a word misspelled, there's a portion of your audience who's probably not going to care about that and say, oh, it's social media, that happened. But there's going to be an even bigger portion of your audience that's going to say, if I'm coming to this person because I want to read their book or I'm interested in their topic, they're going to expect a level of professionalism and a level of detail orientation about your content that really, really does come from planning it out ahead. And that doesn't just mean we look at our calendar and say, well, on Mondays, I want to produce this kind of content. On Tuesdays, I want this. Also tells us what platforms we're going to be using. This is going to tell us what time of day, perhaps, we are going to be publishing that content. There's a lot of things we can go into our social media efforts knowing. There are some things that we will need to play around with. What day is our audience on LinkedIn, the most? What time of day do they check their social medias first thing when they wake up? Do they do it before they go to bed? Are they a person who at lunchtime is going through their emails and going through their social media? And sometimes that knowledge can only come from posting things and then going back and looking at what the data tells us. And that's also where a content calendar really comes in handy, because when you do take a step back and look at the data, and it's very clear that, let's say, every Monday your content Mondays are always consistently the best day of the week for you. You can then go back and look at what time you're posting, what platforms you're posting to, what type of content. Is it a static photo? Is it a carousel of photos? Is it a video? How long was the video? These are all things we definitely want to put on our content calendar so that when we step back and take a look, it's very clear to us what the data is communicating on behalf of our audience. We also want to color code things, once again, to make it as easy to high level look at and say, well, this blue content, anything blue that's a reel is getting a lot of likes and high engagement. Anything that's pink, that's a graphic quote, a Monday motivation, those are getting a lot of likes, but we're not seeing a lot of comments. So that's all the kind of stuff. And we actually have given you a document to begin your social media planning journey. And this is all part of the strategy. The strategy basically is going to go from your head, into a content calendar. So this is what we pretty much want, the type of content that we would like to see you post. And once again, this can go on whatever platforms are most relevant to your audience. Not the platforms, let's say, that you are already most active on, because we really aren't delivering content to us ourselves. we're delivering content to an audience. And we always want to make sure, well, what platform would they be on the most? Are they going to be on a Facebook, or are they going to be on a LinkedIn? Or is it a more business oriented type of book and type of topic? Well, then yes, we most definitely want to shift to a more business oriented platform. One thing I will also tell you is you can cross post. You can post on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter or X. The thing though that I always want you to be aware of though is that you will not be able to create one post with one image and immediately go and post it on all platforms. There are a lot of things that need to be tailored to the individual platforms, but it's a relatively quick process to do it actually. When you create an image, resize it for the platforms that you're going to put it on. And Canva is very good at this. If you have a premium account, you simply can do it with a click of a button. If you do not have a premium account, it's very easy to open up your Canva, Control A, kind of highlight everything on the page, copy it, and then let's say we're on our Facebook post, but then we want to shift it to a LinkedIn post. You open a blank LinkedIn post and then just paste everything from the Facebook to this new other, LinkedIn, Instagram post, and then kind of just make sure everything appears optimized. A lot of times we see people take content from Facebook, try and put it on LinkedIn, and people's heads get cut off. That is not optimized content. And once again, just the same way a grammatical error is going to give our audience space to disengage, so too are unoptimized images. Those also are going to make our account look less professional. Your audience is going to say, if this person can't even spend the time to make sure that the heads are on all of their people in their photos, I'm not sure this is a person that I want to follow for this very important business topic to myself, or for life coaching. So we definitely want to make sure that if we are cross-posting, which is totally okay, we are optimizing the content for the particular platform by looking not only at our images, but also at our character count. A platform like Twitter will only allow you, or X, 280 characters. So if you have a lengthy LinkedIn post that you'd like to shift to Twitter, you will need to edit that and bring that character count down as well. So these are the types of content that we feel. Yes.
Good question. I've done social media for a day job, and they were recommending to post on a blog and then repost the blog into all those different channels. So what I was thinking for my book is to put it up on Substack and then share all those. So what are your thoughts on doing it that way?
Okay, so I've done a lot of blog oriented content. The idea is not to put the blog post on the platforms. Your blog post should be hosted on a website, right? Or a blog page of some kind on the internet. The idea is that we create content for our social media channels that then directs our audience to that blog post. Because a lot of the times the blog posts are on the website and you're pushing traffic directly from social media to this blog post on the website, which then can generate purchases, let's say, of a product. If it's a retail entity, they may, there was an agricultural startup I worked for a time period, and they had a very large high-end agricultural product. This was for professional growers and producers. We published blog posts once a week. Those blog posts were hosted on our website, but then we created content for all of our social media platforms that absolutely directed them to the blog posts on the website, so that if they didn't already know we had a website, or if we updated the website and they weren't aware, they then would be pushed to the website and then could kind of look around. Oh yeah, I'm going to read this blog post. Oh, by the way, it looks like they've got some events. I'm going to go over here and click that and check that out. And that generates a lot of traffic for our website, which for a lot of marketers is usually a metric that we are trying to see some movement on. A lot of the times when you are paying for like social media content that is advertising something, the goal of that paid content is to push people to the website. So I'm not sure if you were saying to post the actual blog post on the various social platforms. But I definitely, if you ever have a blog post that goes out, if you ever have an event, if you ever have a website redesign or something new that you've added, you always do want to put content out on your social medias about that, and then push the audience to the particular blog post, or push them to your website, or push them to, you know, a new product page. So I would agree with that, but I would probably agree with a revised approach to that statement. But yes, I love when people advertise new blog posts, fresh content on their social medias. Absolutely, because a lot of the times, how else would people know about it unless they know your blog post comes out every Thursday and they're checking in. But those are already audience members that we have. If we want to generate new audience members, we want to, push our new content, or at least advertise our new content on our socials with maybe some hashtags that make it easier to search depending on the topic. You know, hashtag self-help, hashtag life coaching, hashtag B2Bs, because those hashtags are going to make it searchable. And that's when we may start seeing maybe some new audience members. Does that make sense, Shashi?
Yeah, I think I was looking for where the rubber hits the road here. Am I going to make the blog post and then do individual tailored posts on each channel, on Twitter and Instagram, or whatever? Or am I am I going to have to transcode the images and all that kind of stuff for each channel? Or, I mean, because a platform like Substack is, it does some of that for you. If you have it do the posting for, like, there's buttons in Substack, post to Twitter, post to my Facebook and all that. So are you recommending that we manually do that and not use the built-ins from Substack?
Here's where I stand on that. I'm not familiar with Substack, but it sounds like it has a portion of it that may be like HubSpot or Hootsuite, where you can create like one piece, one post, but then generate it to the other platforms, like kind of automate the process.
It works just like Medium also.
Yes. Okay. My stance on that would be, sure, great, use it, but none of these platforms are really perfected. A lot of the times what we use those platforms for is not to create one piece and push it to multiple accounts. What we use that to do is schedule our posts. So we, as a social media marketer, I usually create the posts myself, create the images, and then schedule those in a platform like HubSpot, Hootsuite, Medium, Monday, any of those. That's typically what we would do. Does it take a little bit more time? Perhaps, but you are ensuring the quality of your content. And as someone who wants to use these channels for marketing purposes, I would behoove you to make sure that your content, and it, like I said, it may take a little bit more time, but I would want you to have oversight on as everything that's going to go on your platforms. Otherwise, if something doesn't appear optimized, if something doesn't translate, let's say you have a 350 word post that you put up, what does it then send to X or to Twitter? The machine can't minimize those characters perfectly. So I personally create all my posts. I do, like I said, it's very easy to resize on Canva. I do always character count. I do always make sure that the hashtags I'm using are for the particular platform. You may use different hashtags on LinkedIn than you do on Twitter, just because the audiences are different that are on those platforms. But it's up to you. But once again, I personally always like to have oversight as to what's going on my clients' platforms, and I like to have a little bit of control over the way everything appears and everything sounds. I'm not familiar with Substack. I can't speak specifically to that particular app or platform, but that's just kind of my best practice that I've done. And I've been managing social media professionally for about 7 years now. That's actually where my meat and potatoes is for a lot of the work I do. So yes, that would be my professional stance on that. Does that make sense? Perfect. I saw a thumbs up. I saw it. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Is there anything?
No, I was saying that was really helpful. Thank you.
Lovely. Yes, absolutely. And like I said, if you guys have questions about social media, that's my meat and potatoes. I'm happy to talk about that stuff. But once again, you have your marketers as well who are a bit more honed in on your specific topic, your specific book, and you always can float any of those questions by them as well. All right, jumping back in, planning out our content. We want to not only plan, the type of posts, we want to plan the platforms, the type of content, the visuals, and what, what the post is going to be about. So once again, if we shift over to this document, you can kind of see the type of content we feel we should see on author run accounts, where you're introducing yourself, kind of talking about what your book is about, a quote of a graphic quote from your book. A lot of times, once again, these flow really good into Motivation Monday posts. Share about an event that you've spoken at. If you are someone who does podcasts, if you are someone who is going to have a blog post that you're pushing live, or that perhaps you are featured in, that also makes great content. Someone or something that has inspired your book. Share book models, reviews, models of your cover perhaps. And you can always pose poll questions, especially visual platforms like Instagram are typically pretty good with poll questions, where let's say you post, oh, am I still sharing my screen? I don't think I am. I'm so sorry. Let me get back to that. Share. Okay. So yes, this is the document I'm talking about again. And I'm so sorry if you guys couldn't see this for a moment, but this is the type of content where, once again, quote graphics, something that is inspired, the models of your book cover, and then poll question. Tell me which version do you like best? They don't have to really be choosing the cover of the book by any means, but including them, once again, we're doing invitation marketing where we're inviting them in. Poll questions can be great to make an audience feel as though they are included. Teasing campaign perks, perhaps that you are going to provide a code to get 15% off of a package. You can always put, advertise. And when I say advertise, it can still be organic content. It doesn't have to be a paid ad, but tease your campaign perks, tease your packages, a movie line or quote that relates to your topic, your music playlist that you listen to while you're writing, if you are someone who listens to music. So I hope you guys are noticing not all of this content is about the book in particular. A lot of it is about your process. And that's what we're inviting people into. We're inviting them into your process because advocates typically become advocates because they feel a personal connection to the creator, to the author. And that's where we really, really, really see audience advocacy take flight and really grow, is when people feel that you are accessible, not just content about your book, not just content about, your particular industry, let's say, but they feel like they know you or they can get to know you. So that's really a lot of the content that we want to see. But also, if you do put a blog post live, let's say, you're a life coach, you have a post going out about optimizing time or burnout. Absolutely, please put content about that on your social media platforms, and then have a link that directs them directly to the blog post, or directly to maybe an article, a thought leadership article that you've put on your website. So this is not a hard and fast, like this is the kind of content we want you to have. But all of this is really, really awesome jumping off points that we see kind of in general help an audience feel more connected to the person whose accounts they're looking at. Planning content and planning also, I would like to say, does mean that you can schedule posts ahead of time. A lot of the times I may not schedule posts up until the week prior, just in case we have any changes. Maybe something like, when COVID hit, oh my goodness, that dramatically changed the content we had on social media. I was working for public school districts at that time, and that drastically changed it. But we always want to take that content calendar, create that content ahead of time, revise it, edit it, look at it, make sure everything's good, then actually go out on the platforms and schedule them. And there are a lot of paid tools that will let you do that. I'm not sure, Shashi, if you can tell me if Substack's one of those, but there are paid, like Hootsuite, HubSpot, and those are automation tools, but there are also a lot of free tools. With Facebook and Instagram, you can use Business Manager or Business Studio, Create Studio, it used to be called, and you can schedule you don't have to pay for that at all. If you have a Facebook account, you have access. It's on the business side of the platform, but it allows you to schedule posts out with really no limitations. Twitter
can I
also.
add one thing?
Yes.
On HubSpot, I use their marketing platform for scheduling calendar meetings, like Calendly. And it's amazing for that. And they have a bunch of free tools for marketing. But if you go over like 50 a month, their tools become for pay and they get real expensive real fast.
Those are,
so I'd be wary.
Yes. So a lot of the times those more paid for type of automation tools are meant for enterprise level kind of stuff. So they're meant for very large organizations that are pushing a lot of content live. And that's just the nature of a Coca-Cola versus, someone who's selling toothpaste, let's say, all natural toothpaste. That's a lot of those larger entities gravitate towards those tools just because those are kind of made to handle those larger enterprise level or enterprise sized organizations.
Do you have an opinion on ConvertKit?
I do not know what ConvertKit is. I'm sorry. That might be if that's a tool to convert posts. Once again, I typically go through Canva and I just do it myself. I create all of my social media images in Canva and it's super easy to resize even if you have the free account. So I've never had a need to go out and find a tool that helps me do that. So yeah, I'm not familiar. I can't speak specifically to ConvertKit. All right, let's jump back in. I will share my screen again. All right, vary your content. You can tell just by what we talk about in planning, we want you to have a bunch of different kinds of content. So we want you to have images. We want you to have photos. We want you to have graphics that have no photos in them. We want you to do carousels. We want you to do reels. We want you to play around with that because that's a spot you can get creative in. But B, it also is going to give your audience variety to keep so that, to keep their following you from feeling stale or from feeling as though, well, I've heard this before, I've seen this before. So we always want to vary our content, and that can be varying out the topic, but that can also be varying the platforms we put it on or the type. Is it a quote graphic? Is it a photograph? Is it a reel? Is it an IG story? Is it a YouTube vlog? You will start to see what they respond to the best. And that's basically them just telling you, we like this kind of content. So that's when you can start to say, well, I see all of my posts with 30-second videos perform the best. Even when I can only put a 15-second snippet in my Instagram stories, but then I link them to, and that will let you know what your audience's preferences are for the type of content. And once again, sometimes that's something that we can only find out through some experimentation. But if it takes time, the best accounts find balance between what the account wants to say or wants to sell and what the audience's needs are and meeting those needs. Batching content, and I think, Shashi, this might speak a bit to what it is, maybe some of these tools do. Batching essentially means generating content in bulk. There's a lot of things that can make that easier, opposed to having to create it the same day you plan to post it. Batching, a lot of the times, like I said, I typically have content done a week to a month ahead of time. And I'm always scheduling my posts for the following week every Thursday, Friday at the very latest, so that those kind of go off without a hitch, and I'm not spending, days where I'm hunched over my computer creating social media content in real time. A lot of the times those of us who are creating a lot of content or are creating content for another entity, as a career, we're creating batches of content at a time, and then going out and kind of getting that scheduled. Batching content can be based on what you have coming up on your calendar, what you have planned for the next week or the next month. Batching content can also happen, let's say, when you have an event and you get a lot of content from that event. A lot of times I see this happen with trade shows. When an entity goes to and attends or shows at a trade show, they have a booth. A lot of times we get a massive amount of content from that. And that's stuff that I can sit down and very quickly create some posts about, and kind of just have those on standby. Some of those other posts, let's say like a recap post, that's going to take more time, and that's going to be something that you probably, might need to take some time to think about. But batching content is something that we always advocate to do, because it may take a little bit of time up front, but it's worth it because it saves you a lot of time in the long run. If you batch both your visual content and then the corresponding text you want it to have, so that copy that appears with it, once again, you can do that by the week, by the month, but it's good to keep it the same as how you decide to arrange your content. So if you plan to schedule your content, weekly, then I typically would batch it by week. If you plan to schedule your content monthly, which I've been able to do with entities I've been with lengthier, then batch it a month at a time, create it a month at a time, just spend a week, churning that stuff out, and then get it scheduled if possible. I will say, I don't know that I found a free tool to schedule on LinkedIn quite yet. But once again, there are free tools for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter or X, and YouTube. You also can schedule posts for YouTube as well.
LinkedIn does, I don't know if it's a premium thing, at least for me, it does let me schedule in advance directly.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've never had access to a profile that allowed that. But I also don't think I've ever operated a premium account that I can think of.
It might be specific to creator mode. If you have, I don't know if there's if you can turn on creator mode in a free LinkedIn account, but definitely you can in the paid version.
Okay, yeah, because I have a creator account and I don't know that I've had access to that. But once again, premium, Brian, to your point, that might be a total possibility with a premium account. I just myself haven't had experience with that yet. I haven't operated an account that was premium. Mm-hmm. Recycling content, once again, you see this a lot during Throwback Thursdays, Flashback Fridays, or if you, and it doesn't just have to be like flashback to, when I started writing my book a year ago, it can also, a lot of times when we flash back to content, we typically are looking at content that has performed well. And that's what we flash back to, because if it performed well the first time, chances are it's going to be set up to perform well the second time. Recycle it by creating a reel, filming an author vlog where you perhaps go into a little bit more in depth, hosting an Instagram live with other authors where you talk about writing routines, write a blog post that goes in depth into that. We do want to recycle content where possible, because we should never feel as though we're reinventing the wheel to put out social media content. So really always feel comfortable to reach a wider audience with content that perhaps, maybe you posted 6 months ago. No, come on, sweetie. My son just ran in. You may, 6 months ago it performed well. Your audience may be different 6 months later. You might have more audience members. And that would be fresh content to them. So they would not, it wouldn't feel, kind of, oh, well, I've seen this, it's old hat. It's going to be new to the parts of your audience that have joined since that post went live. Scheduling content. Yes. A lot of the times when I've worked for an entity, there's typically hours, whether, I might not be in their time zone. I'm definitely not going to be in all of their audience's time zones. A lot of the times I do that and I schedule all of that. And it really only works though if you batch content ahead of time, which is why I also would advocate for that. And so you need to create both the visual and the corresponding copy that's going to go with it to schedule your posts. And once again, we have scheduling tools, Hootsuite, Planoly later, but those typically have paid portions of them that are very nice to have, but that might not be something that fits into your strategy. Optimize posting times and days. You can have the best content in the world, but if you're not bringing it to your audience's doorstep, if they're not online to see it, it's not going to get kind of probably the chance that it should have. So when we get to really know our audience and we start to understand perhaps their motivations and a little bit about their lifestyle, maybe, and that's beyond demographic. Lifestyle, I mean, what time did they wake up? What time do they tend to go to bed? When are they people who do behaviorally check their email at lunch? That's, we want to post at times where they're going to be online. And a lot of times when I've worked for someone, it's been, we have a post that goes live at maybe, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard, or depending on what time zone they're in, 6 a.m. for the audience, right? So that when they wake up and they open their phone first thing, they're looking at the news, they're checking their email. If they do happen to navigate to their platforms, it has a higher chance to show up in their feed, which is all algorithm based. But by posting at days and times when we know our audience is online already, we're kind of helping the algorithm just a little bit, because we know that people are going to be there to see the content. Post consistently. Don't feel like you need to post 365 days a year. A lot of the times, professional accounts I've managed, it's Monday through Friday, at least one post a day. Sometimes if we have a lot of content, or if there is an event that's happening or a blog post that's gone live, we may have more than one post. There's been entities I've worked for that have so much content we can post 5 times a day for periods of time. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that for sure. But we do want to post consistently. And what our best practice is 3 to 5 days a week is the range that we feel you should try to hit, because the rhythm of your posting feeds into these algorithms. And then also your audience is going to know when they go online to expect a new post from you. So yeah, and that a lot of the times can happen algorithm wise. That a lot of times can happen. They wake up, it's Friday. They know you're going to have a flashback Friday, so they can go to your account. If it's not showing up in their algorithm, they can go to your account. Oh, there it is. There it is. I don't want to miss out. We're getting to the exciting part of the process. But we do want to post with some consistency. And this is after even your pre-sale and after your launch. We see a lot of authors kind of trail off. You are not doing yourself any favors by trailing off after the peak event. We want to stay consistent even after those events are over, because there's probably going to be content that is generated during those periods that would be incredibly valuable to your brand. Getting niche-y. People don't just want consistency in posting, they want consistency in the message that you're sending. So when we say find your niche, what I'm going to say is find your audience. And don't be afraid to really dial into specifics. about the need that you are filling for them. A lot of audience research that anyone does to go into marketing focuses, on those demographics. We want to know where they live. We want to know, in general, do they have an office job? Are they working during the day? Are they working during the evening? Are they working, Monday through Friday? When are they waking up? When are they, there's a lot of that behavior kind of stuff. But what we really want to focus on is, what is their problem? What is their challenge? And we want to phrase a lot of our content in ways that validates, hey, this is a problem a lot of people have. Don't worry about it. I'm here to talk about it. And I'm here to make you, I'm here to solve it. And I'm here to make you feel better about it. So we do want to get to know their demographics. We do want to get to know, kind of in general, what that looks like. But a lot of the times where we see people be really successful with their marketing efforts is when they dial in enough to know what the problem is, and then create messaging around the solution that you have, that you're going to present, and be consistent with that messaging. So what if I'm multi-passionate? What if I don't want to be just one thing? That's okay. So is everyone. Everyone in this world should be allowed to be multifaceted. Most people are not just one thing, but if you take a step back and look at all of those facets, there's still certain things that you will be able to pull out a central message or a core goal that aligns with all of, let's say, the facets. A lot of times, like, okay, what's the title of your book? What's the topic of your book? Those themselves can be the kind of the universals. But once again, that is totally going to be based on, also, yes, big time on the audience, but what kind of author persona do you want to have? Share stories, utilize hashtags. This is a big one. Hashtags are a search function. Hashtags, when used properly, help audiences that are already not familiar with you find you. And I know this is going to be insane to a lot of people, but 3 hashtags at most is what you should be using. They make your post optimized for search. If you have 50 hashtags, which is where I think even when I first got on social media ages ago, oh man, the more hashtags, the better, right? Like, yeah, you may get a lot of likes on those posts, but are they the right likes? Are you drawing the right people? Are you drawing people who are going to buy your book? It's a casual onlooker is great, but they're not going to go out and talk about your book to other people because they're not going to really care to inform themselves about it, probably. We want those truly passionate audience members. We want those audience members that are going to become those advocates. Hashtags are awesome for search to do that. And a lot of the times that takes a little bit of, thought, maybe even some research to see, okay, well, my book is about XYZ. What are the top 3 things, that the top 3 hashtags or terms I can pull from that people are searching for? And there are free tools out there that can help you. I think like #addit, hashtag.org. You can kind of just do some basic research to give it the topic that you're talking about, and perhaps the geographic location. Like, are they in the U.S.? Are they in South Africa? And one time I will tell you, when I did work for that ag startup, plow is PLOW in the US, but it's PLOUGH elsewhere. So that was also something that researching for our hashtags led me to find, and it was a very valuable thing to know. But hashtags are great. Max at 3. And that's a really tough habit to break, because I think everybody starts out thinking the more the better. 3 at max. Engage others. And this is going to contribute to that metric where we were talking about those kind of like direct, when we were talking about those 3 metrics that we really want to see you hit for the success for this pre-sale. And that is engagement. You're going to foster a community when you engage actively. That doesn't mean every time a notification pops up on your phone, you have to jump on and acknowledge it. A lot of us don't live lifestyles that allow that. But when at the end, once a day usually is what we say. Once a day, you do want to go in, you do want to read your comments, and you do want to engage with those. And there's categories that we technically kind of can put the people who are probably going to be commenting on your book with. Potential readers, these are people who could be anyone on social media, but these are people interested in your genre or your niche and the topic you're going to be talking about. Your current audience, fellow authors, they may not really have much of a concern for your industry or topic, but you're an author, they're an author. There is, some shared traits there, and they want to learn more about. Maybe they also want to publish a book at some point, and they may be kind of looking at your process to learn more about that. Instagrammers, bookstagrammers, podcast hosts, bookstagram tours. This category takes on a variety of forms, but this basically is anyone with larger followings that tends to be able to sway audiences to make a purchase or have a particular, behavior or a particular action to take. Engage first, engage back. And when someone does leave you a comment, like it, hey, thanks at so-and-so. And we do always kind of want to at the people who are commenting so that we once again create that really personal connection. And they feel as though, because not only is that person who you at going to feel that, but your whole community is going to look at that. Your whole community has access to see your comments. So there are a lot of people out there who look at the comments of someone who is new to them, and is that behavior they want to be a part of? Is there respectful talk in the comments, or is there different people attacking each other in the comments? People will make decisions based solely on that. So once again, you do want to at people to say thank you, but also when your audience comes in and or new lookers, new social media people, when they come in and look at that, they're going to say, look at this. Like this is a cultivated community. This is a person who has put thought and effort into connecting with the people who follow them. And that's pretty awesome. If you are waiting for people to engage, you will be waiting a long time. The best way to get engagement is to start engaging. Search the hashtags that have something to do with your book, your message, your topic, and start engaging with those accounts. A lot of times also, we are going to tell you when it comes to following other accounts, please do try and follow accounts that reflect your industry, your topic, your message, because anybody can look at who you're following. And if they see personalities or if they see topics in the accounts that you're following that they do not agree with, then they are going to migrate away from your account. So we also do want to make sure that any accounts we do follow, and I do advocate that you follow other accounts, but make sure they are accounts that are going to be relevant to your topic, your industry, your author persona, your audience. Are they going to be people your audience is going to be happy to see you following, or could they take a step back? The engagements can take on several forms, and this is one of those metrics I was talking about we really want to see you hit. Likes, comments, saves. Anyone who saves your post is also engaging. A share. Are they sharing it on their account? Are they sharing it to someone else? That's an engagement. Tags. Are you being tagged in anything? Are you tagging someone else? And then direct messages. These are all, we call them the engagement metrics. So when we say we want you to have X number of engagements on social media, these are what we're talking about that make up that number. So yes, there's a lot of things that we can contribute to those engagement numbers. I'm just going to finish this out real quick. The sum up: consistent, connecting, concentrated. When it comes to social media, these are the 3 C's we want you to remember. Get into both a content creating and posting rhythm that you can be consistent with. That way, you know when your content needs to be created and your audience knows when they can expect to see your posts. Also, be consistent with your message. It's okay to be multi-passionate. It is okay to be multifaceted and incorporate all those aspects of yourself into your social media presence. But they all need to, everything that you present needs to come back and connect to a central theme, a central goal, or your central message. And all of those need to be highly relevant to your audience. Connecting, leverage relevant hashtags. 4 to 6 is what we're advocating in this workbook. Tag, and once again, that's because you guys are probably going to, if you do start a new author account, let's say, and you start from scratch, you keep your personal social medias completely separate from your professional. You do want to make yourself a little bit easier to search. 4 to 6 hashtags. Once again, maximum per platform, and they can be different on each platform. Tag any company.
Mariana,
Yes.
are you also saying, are we using existing hashtags, or are we creating one of our own so that we're easy to identify?
Both. A lot of the times I always will say, please do create a branded hashtag. One hashtag though, that's it, is your branded hashtag. And do your research. Make sure no one else has that branded hashtag. We've run into people who have used branded hashtags that other entities have had. Yeah, that's not something I think is going to benefit anyone if that happens. So if you do create a branded hashtag, one, and do your research to see, number one, if anybody else has that. Number two, what is the sentiment around it? If there are accounts that are posting that hashtag, but it's not anyone's branded hashtag, are they using it positively or are they using it negatively? That sentiment matters because even though we don't want it to happen, it is going to carry over to your account because everybody else can search that hashtag too. Yes, Aaron.
How do you find out if it's branded hashtag?
You just go on the platform and search it and see what kind of posts come up.
Gotcha. And if it's with
Aaron, you can
trademarked or anything, it's just people use it for that. So you just want to make sure that.
Yeah. Once again, when I worked for school districts, we had a school that I think their mascot was a warrior, right? And when we went in and we came to a period where we wanted them to generate a new branded hashtag. And in doing the research, obviously when I'm asked to come up with a branded hashtag, I come up with, let's say 10 to 12. And then the entity has the last final say. But I always am researching those hashtags to see if anyone else is using them, how many posts, if it is a used hashtag that's out there, how many posts are attributed to it? Is it 1,000? We typically only want to go with branded hashtags that have under 1,000 posts. If you're going to use it as your branded hashtag, we really don't want it to have more than 1,000 posts that are live on the platform. And what is the sentiment? And by sentiment, I mean purely what is the human emotion around it? And that's something sometimes we have to do a little bit of research and read about because that is, believe it or not, and we don't want this to happen, but it will have carryover into your brand. Even if it has nothing to do with your brand, that sentiment will carry over. And sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it's not so good. Does that make sense? There are tools out there you can use to search hashtags as well. But once again, typically I just go on a platform and search because I think that I like to have that level of control and I don't want to see what a machine's kind of thought process is on that. I want to see it myself. They may think something is a positive sentiment that I don't. So does that make sense?
It does. It's just a matter of me learning. So I'll think about
not a problem. Like I said, that's what I'm here for. That's what your marketer is going to help you with. Real quick, I got like 1 or 2 more things to say, and then we'll be done for the evening. Concentrated, always point back to the thought leadership on your topic and provide your audience with something tangible they can walk away with that entertains, informs, or inspires. And in all of these, entertaining, informing, or inspiring, we're connecting with human emotion. If we are entertaining, we are making them laugh. If we are informing them, we're making them think. If we're inspiring them, we're making them feel. It connects back to a human emotion, and that's very important. We have this tool down here, your social media marketing content planner. which once again, I believe is what we looked at just earlier in class tonight. I think this is going to be the same spreadsheet. Yeah, it's the exact same. So it's both at in the workbook that we went over tonight and also at the end of the workbook with the type of content that we think that you should start planning for your social media accounts. And I know we didn't make it because we are into session 2, audience engagement. I'm probably next time we meet next Monday, going to really try to get session 2 and session 3 in one session. So it may be a pretty rapid fire session next Monday. But I also know this social media stuff is important because it's very tough for those of us who grew up thinking of social media as a social tool. It's sometimes really hard to understand what to do if we want to use it for marketing. How is that different than the social the social aspects we use that for? Pinterest, yes, fantastic. I love Pinterest. Once again, it depends on the topic, depends on the industry, depends on the audience. But Pinterest, I feel like as far as making mood boards, for the process that you guys are going through, or kind of creating perhaps, sometimes if you're at a loss for content and you have no post for the day, going to Pinterest is a really good option because it's visual and it has copy to it. So it's something that you can kind of generate your social media content from pretty quickly. Any other questions? All right. So that was kind of a spiel tonight, but all very important because once again, I have